As you progress into the endgame of the First Ascendant, a lot of unique weapons and ultimate characters are best acquired through reactor recon missions. This guide is a comprehensive look at engaging with this mechanic and how to best prepare for optimal reactor farming. First, you'll want to ensure that you have Sharon unlocked. Farming her is a one-time investment, and you'll utilise her for many unlocks. Sharon allows us to drop more shape stabilizers during recon missions, but more importantly, she unlocks an additional role on patterns in normal mode and a secondary pattern drop in hard mode. It's technically possible to achieve these benefits without Sharon, but it's much harder and not worth the effort, since it's frustrating and prone to failure. If you don't have Sharon yet, you can opt to purchase her from the store or farm her from the associated infiltrations. On average, you'll run 20 infiltrations to acquire her, since you need 4 pieces and they're all a 20% drop rate. You might already have a few parts from various runs, so check on the Access Info panel to see what's left. For any part you don't have, press F to see where it's gathered from. I recommend farming these infiltrations with Bunny. If you have 0 investment in her, I'd run these modules: Skill Expansion, Skill Extension, MP Collector, and Maximize Conservation. If you have enough space for additional modules, grab anything that increases skill range, skill cooldown, or MP recovery modifiers. With a decent level 100 reactor, you should be one-shotting any non-boss with your lightning emission. Once you've got Sharon, equip her with a maximized sub-module, such as mid-air maneuvering, then take skill extension, maximize duration, and increased HP. If you have space for increased def, equip the lowest level 1 and maximize it until your module capacity is full. If you have a spare energy activator, it might be worth using it if your weapon isn't that strong. You'll also want to get Sharon to level 40, or at least level 4 active camouflage so its duration is maximized. You've likely engaged with reactors and recon missions before, but here's a quick recap just in case. They're located in most zones and are small areas patrolled by a group of monsters. Non-Sharon characters typically kill the machines to spawn the reactor boss. This gives you a chance of dropping a pattern, which you'll then open on a void boss. For Sharon, you'll utilise her Activate Camouflage skill to enter the area and interact with the machines to disable them. Each machine you disable gives you an increased chance at either an additional pattern of the same type on normal mode or a secondary pattern in hard mode. You'll want to aim to disable every machine every single time, and after a little practice, you should be able to do this with ease no matter what reactor you're at. If any monster in the zone sees you, you won't be able to disable the machines by interacting with them. This is why Sharon is required to efficiently and easily access secondary pattern drops and increase drop rates on shape stabilizers. When she's invisible, she's free to disable the machines. I highly recommend only farming patterns in private instances, since if anyone is spotted by the monsters in the reactor, you won't be able to disable the machines. To switch to private, you'll first have to travel to Albion. Bring up the map of the area you want to visit and press the toggle in the top left-hand corner. Once the reactors have all been disabled, either through killing them or disabling them, a reactor boss will spawn. Some are very quick and easy to kill, whereas others are much more of a challenge. Thankfully, you can die up to 5 times during these missions, so don't worry too much if you go down once or twice. Since we're relying on our weapon damage almost entirely, I recommend having a strong Thunder Cage. Put any crystallization catalyst you have into it, prioritizing firearm attack and crit modules. This is the Thunder Cage setup I use to farm reactors. Patch 1.0.4 reduced the cooldown of reactors from 5 minutes to 1 minute, meaning it should be relatively easy for people to farm upwards of 12 patterns of their choice per hour, provided you're happy to stay in the same area to wait for respawns. However, if you are willing to put in a little bit more effort for maximal efficiency, you can opt to hop between various areas to farm more than one pattern at the same time, increasing the total number that you'll drop per hour. Here's an example. Suppose I want to farm pattern 70 for Ultimate Viessa Spiral Catalyst and 72 for Ultimate Glaze Spiral Catalyst. I can clear one outpost, then immediately bring up my map, teleport to the other region, and clear that outpost. The instances should almost always contain a spawned reactor, so you'll increase your pattern count per hour. In testing, I was able to clear 15 outposts in 10 minutes by area hopping between these 2 reactors, whereas I only cleared 8 if I waited for the 1 minute respawn timer. It's important to note that these 2 locations are the best case scenario for this type of method, and you might want to stick around and wait for respawns if the pattern you're after is attached to a reactor that's quite far from a portal location, or you have other stuff you can do between respawns. However, hopping between these locations should yield a total of 22.5, 70 and 72 patterns combined per hour, whereas respawn camping would only yield 12 of whichever you pick. All reactor patterns are opened by killing void bosses. To summon a void boss, you'll need the corresponding void shards. There are two ways to acquire void shards: clearing special operations or destroying fragments. Patch 1.0.4 introduced the ability to farm void shards from special operations, with the most being available via the Neutralize Void Experiment mission. Currently, you'll receive around 25 per 15 minutes inside this mission. Unless this receives a massive buff in the future, it's simply not worth farming void shards via this method. You can also acquire void shards from clearing void fragments, but you'll need to be on a character with the corresponding element type to be able to receive them. For instance, this void fragment in Fortress Frozen Valley drops 19 polymer and 4 organic void shards, but you need a chill based character to be eligible for them. Currently, Vyessa is the only chill based character in the game, so you'd have to finish this mission with her for the shards. Not all characters can farm void shards efficiently. There are non-attribute void fragments, but these only drop a total of 12 void shards, so it's really preferable to farm other locations, which give around double of this, but split across 2 types of shard instead of all 4. Currently, here are the best locations to farm void shards. For polymer void shards, Fortress Frozen Valley with a chill character. For monomer void shards, Fortress Fallen Ark with an electric character. For organic void shards, Hagios Dune Base with a fire character. For inorganic void shards, White Knight Gulch, the mountaintops with a toxic character. Void shard locations might rotate in the future, but these 4 locations should be great no matter what reward they provide or what element is required to access them. I highly recommend recruiting on the official TFD Discord server for void shard farming. The efficiency you'll get from most spots is really worth it. Additionally, don't be afraid to farm a lot of void shards if you're clearing quickly with a good group. You'll be able to use them in future to summon more void bosses. Void fragments also give a large amount of character experience and weapon proficiency. It's a good time to use crystallization catalysts and level weapons you'll likely never use. Getting rank 20 mastery is quite beneficial for the increased module capacity it provides on weapons and descendants. The void boss you're required to summon to open a pattern is typically found in the same area as where you gathered the pattern. There are a few exceptions to this, but just remember you can always press F on a pattern and then L to see where it can be opened. You'll consume void shards to summon the boss, and each one entitles you to open 1 pattern. For instance, if we take pattern 71, which is acquired as an additional reward from Vesper's The Lumberyard's Outpost, it's opened in Vesper's The Ruins from this void fusion reactor. To summon the boss, I require 34 polymer void shards and 11 monomer void shards. If I successfully kill the boss, I'll be able to use the reconstruction device to open pattern 71. After opening the pattern, you can kill the boss again to create more reconstruction devices, consuming void shards every time that you do. Some void bosses can be quite difficult, whereas others are easy. Sadly, if people group with you, they'll have to spend void shards when the boss dies too. Because of this, it's only really a good idea to group up with others who are looking to open the same patterns. Overfarming void shards is never a terrible idea, mainly because they'll always come in handy later down the road. Additionally, it serves as a decent opportunity to level up weapons and characters that you might not typically play. Overfarming patterns is typically ill-advised, mainly because statistically, you're likely to go dry on at least one piece and lucky on another. If you spend 2 hours farming 15 patterns and you get the drop on the first open, you've essentially wasted 2 hours of farming. It's not quite this bad because you will pick up crystallization catalysts and energy activators along the way, but you could be picking those up from farming patterns that have other drops you want anyway. Because of this, I recommend collecting around 6 or so patterns before opening them up with a character you're comfortable killing void bosses on. You'll also want to see if you can double dip clearing on 2 different locations that have the drop you desire. An example of this would be farming Ultimate Ajax's Stabilizer from pattern 62 and 112. Which are gathered from Sterile Land, the Repository, and Hagios Forward Base respectively. Some locations are better than others for various pieces, so don't be afraid to plan ahead, find a good reactor for a blueprint you want, and couple that with farming another blueprint piece at the same time. That's it for this guide. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more TFD videos.